What's up, guys? It's your boy, James Fraser, host of the Northern Knock podcast. The podcast bringing a spotlight to the best of the best when it comes to Canadian door knockers. We got a special guest today. This man has hit multiple golden doors across different industries. He's been in the game for quite a while, since 2009. And I wanted to bring him on the podcast. He was the first Canadian to hit a golden door in solar in 2023. Please welcome to the podcast, Micheal Ruddy. Micheal, welcome to the show. Did I get your name right?
Hello. Yep. Micheal Ruddy. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Man. Absolutely, man. It's been a long time coming. We've been back and forth for over a year now.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely, man. So, yeah, dude, I met you at Door to Door Con 2023. And, yeah, you kind of came out of nowhere. All of a sudden it was, hey, here's a guy who hit, the first solar golden door in Canada, which was relatively new. Solar is an emerging industry in Canada for sure. So I wanted to have you on the podcast. I know there's a lot of listeners who are in the solar industry in Canada trying to make a dent in it. So you're the man to talk to. So yeah, man, let's give me a rundown on yourself. Tell me a little bit about your childhood, where you're from, and some things that happened that led you into sales.
All right. Well, I was born in Vancouver, but raised in Calgary. And I just always was later as a teenager into biking and snowboarding a lot, and did competitive snowboarding quite a bit. So I was big into that. Actually moved out to Whistler and lived out there for a couple of years and did all the snowboarding. And so I think that might have been why I kind of got led into sales, because I always kind of viewed sales as sport, Yep. You got the leaderboard in the office and you're out there just performing, you're not just getting the same pay as everybody, you get paid based off your performance, right? So it was always competing to be number one in the office. So I kind of like that aspect, always competing growing up. So
yeah, very cool, man. Very
I think
cool.
That might have been a little bit of it.
All right. And then how did you get recruited? What's your recruiting story?
Oh yeah, that's funny one actually. So I was living in my van and I was doing the whole snowboarding, thing. And it was summertime, so I was working at this paintball place just by Cochrane, just west of Calgary. And then my old snowboard buddy that I used to in junior high, we'd go snowboarding all the time, Brad Brandsma, he just comes in with these guys. They look like they're having a really fun time. And he's like, "Oh, Ruddy, what's going on?" And I was at the paintball place, fixing the guns, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by this time I'd already been at the paintball place for quite a while, not too long, I guess, a couple months, 3 months. So I was kind of starting getting sick of it. Just kind of a boring job,
Sure.
So he comes in and we start small talking and he's like, "Oh, I made $3,500 last week." I was like, "No, dude, there's no way." And he's like, "Yeah, these are all the people I work with. We're out here." And I had no idea what the job was. And he was like, "Yeah, just go talk to that guy. And you can see if you can get hired." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I immediately was like, "Man, if this guy made $3,500 a week, I could make $3,500 in a week. If he could do it, I could do it, right?" But yeah, so long story short, I went and talked to the guy, and then I got in for an interview, went through that whole process. And then sure enough, I was at the company with them at Just Energy. So we were selling those 5-year fixed rates, for energy, with solar when you...
Right. Yep.
So we used to sell those plans door to door.
So you would sell fixed rates of hey, we'll keep your energy bill at this, and it's not going to go up over the next 5 years.
Yeah, the electric rate, 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So we would sell those for 5 years. So people would be on a floating rate, or they'd be on another energy plan, and we'd switch them over.
Got it. Interesting.
So that was what we did. Yeah. So you get $120 for one of those.
$120 a sale. Nice.
Yeah. And back then that was huge money,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Nice. How long did you work at that company for? Let's talk about your path through the sales world.
Yeah, so I was there for 5 years, but really I didn't start out very good. I didn't even make any sales my first week, and maybe after that it's a couple in a week, one in a week. Almost quit the job a few times, but my mom did sales too, so she would like always be encouraging me, like, "Oh no, you just got to keep sticking it out." And she'd give me like a sales book, and yeah, I basically just kept going. And then finally, after like 3 months of being there, I had my $3,500 week, just like Brad. And then after that, it was just like, okay, we got this now. It's just figured it out somehow.
Nice, nice.
But yeah, so I was there for 5 years and was a manager there eventually, and had like a few guys on the team, like 5, 10 guys on a team. Nothing too crazy.
Sweet, sweet. So that was 2009 to what, 2014 then?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, awesome. So you started getting into management, started to make sales. It was kind of what you did. And then you transitioned to Vivint, is that right? Or what was your next company?
Yeah. Well, what happened was there was these guys. I mean, long story short, all the energy would got shut down in Alberta because there was like furnace guys going door to door, and I guess a bunch of other stuff going on, and it was like kind of, I don't even know what was going on with it, but that's the reason why they shut down the energy programs too, because there was these, I guess, furnace guys going door to door, and they would like rent you the furnace or the hot water tank or whatever it was.
Okay.
And so that was
early days in Canada, door to door.
yeah. So then I was looking for a new job, and I'd always see the Vivint guys out when I was knocking.
Okay.
So that was just immediately like my first go-to. I was like, okay, well, I remember that alarm company. Like whenever we'd run into them in area, they'd always be trying to recruit you, saying, "Oh, you can make way more at this,"
Yeah.
So I'd always kind of remember that, and then I was like, okay, well, if the energy is done, then I'm just gonna go see those orange Vivint guys. They are always looking like were having a good time out there.
And then how long did you work at Vivint for, and what was kind of your trajectory there?
I worked there for 2015, 2016, 2017.
3 years, okay. And how did you do at Vivint? How was that transition?
It was definitely more of a grind than the energy, because I remember the energy was just like, you get 3, 4, 5 in a day easy. Like you could get like 12 in a day, 15 in a day. So you're writing lots of business. So you're kind of always in that good mind state, you're not getting
Right.
rejected like as much.
Right.
But I remember when I first started the alarms, like you would get rejected for like 3 or 4 days or a week straight even. I remember when I started, and it was just rough. Like we were working 8 or like 12-hour days even, like just getting shut down. And I remember it was a lot harder, like mentally. But yeah, then you started to get the hang of it, but it definitely is different. You get like 1 alarm a day, or maybe 2 or 3 in a day is like, whoa,
Right. Yeah.
So
For sure. Like definitely a little bit more higher ticket Vivint alarm systems, right? What was kind of like, what kind of numbers were you selling at Vivint? Was it anything crazy at this point, or, were you over 100 account rep, under 100 account rep, just to kind of give me an idea of your, your path to success?
So it was 2015, and that year I did 127, I believe, and got the #1 rookie.
Do you remember what your best year was with Vivint over those 3 years?
Yeah, it was my second year. It was 212.
212. Okay, cool. So you were like a 100 to 200 accounts for your 3 years at Vivint. Awesome.
Yeah, and then the third year I got something like 80 or 90.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of like a bad year, I guess.
So that was a blow.
Still
for
was
you.
was all good. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's where it gets interesting, right? Because so obviously you come out the gates flying, you lead a team with energy, you transition to Vivint, top rookie, you sell 212 accounts. Then you have that off year, 80 accounts, and then you decide to take a break, correct?
Yeah, well, I always wanted to be a pilot. So actually back in like 2010 or 2011, I got my private license.
Okay.
And so I was always kind of planning on like, finishing that up and getting the commercial license and like being a pilot and having like that career.
Yeah.
But I think the door to door just kind of like was there, and it was like, oh, it was going so well and I was making good money. It was like, why would I stop?
Yeah.
So I don't know, right? But then eventually, after that bad year, I think I was just like, all right, this is the time. Like, this is crap now. Like,
Yeah.
only 80, like what the heck is this?
So why?
But looking back, it's like, we worked for 4 months in Edmonton. I don't remember exactly how much money that would have been for 80 accounts, but it was still like maybe more than a lot of people would make in a year, like in the 6 months, right?
Yeah, still made like 40 grand in a summer or something like that, right? 40, 50 grand. So you go be a pilot. You're kind of like done with the industry a little bit. By the way, that's freaking sick that you became a pilot. You still fly at all?
Thanks, bro. I actually haven't in a while. I was thinking about going back though, because if you don't fly for like so many years, your license will kind of expire. You got to like kind of keep the hours going.
Yeah.
So it would kind of suck to, just lose that completely. So I think I'm gonna.
Cool. Yeah, you got to keep that active, man. That's wicked.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But what made you get back into door to door, and when did you get back into door to door?
Yeah. So 2017, I did the whole student loan thing, took out 100K. That's what you could get, and just did all the piloting, just went all in. And then by the end of, or it was like the start of 2020, like 2019, 2020, kind of when COVID was coming in, right? So I was just getting trained on the 737 with Canadian North, and I had flown it maybe like for a month. And then that's when they kind of really started shutting down things for COVID, like around March there. So that's when I kind of stopped flying and I was just kind of chilling at home a lot, getting paid half of your, you know, I guess if you're on leave or something like this, you get like half of what you normally get. So it was like barely even enough to live, paying
Yeah.
rent and all this stuff with the kids. And then, yeah, I mean, long story short, just got back into it because my homie Gurpreet would always reach out and be like, "Oh man, you got to see what we're doing now. Like it's completely different than what Vivint was like." And I'm like, "Oh no, dude! Like I don't do door to door anymore. Like I'm done, right?" But yeah, he just kept bugging me, and then eventually one day I just went out with him, and it was so funny. Like it was when COVID, it was in just the peak. It was like March, I believe, or April there, of 2020. And so we had to go door to door, like with the face mask and with a face shield. And it was just
Crazy.
so hilarious. I remember thinking, just like, what am I doing out here? This is so stupid, right?
Yeah.
Like in my head, like, I'm not going to get any sales. Like, people are going to be pissed off. And your
Right.
preacher's like, no, no, dude, trust me. Like, everyone's home. Like, it's the sickest. Like, watch, watch, watch. And so we go out and, like, I remember I just grinded all day. It was like getting dark. It's like 8:30, no sales. And I'm just like, man, this is the dumbest thing. Like, this sucks. People are just, rejecting you. And I'm like, I remember this now. Like, this sucks. Like, but then I just kept going, kept going. And then right at like 8:30 ish, like it was just like a lay down. Like, they're like, oh yeah, like absolutely, for sure. Like, boom, signed up, done. Like, I was like, what? That's so easy. Booked the installation. And then so immediately I was just hyped again. So, I
Right.
just made like $600. Like, that's more than I'd ever make in a day of like flying, right?
Right. Yep.
And then so we go out again the next day, and then after that, like around the next day, I got four that day, and I was like, wow, this is serious. And then everything just changed after that. Like I was just basically just like within just like a second, like I was all in on this door to door thing again. I was like, man, you can make so much money at this. This is nuts. I was still
Yeah.
getting paid from the pilot job anyway.
Oh,
So
nice. Yeah,
yeah,
good little setup. Yeah, there's
yeah,
always that
it was
moment.
perfect.
There's always that moment in door to door where you make it's usually at the start where you make a certain amount of income and you just kind of reflect on it and think about what you did before and like how hard you would have had to work. Like
Yeah,
similar 2021 with Telus. I remember I made a 10K paycheck and I used to grind all summer in my previous jobs working at Canadian
yeah,
Tire, just slaving away for 10K to get me through the next semester at school. And just kind of that reflection, just that like aha moment of like, holy cow, this is like serious. Like I got to take this
yeah,
serious, right? So,
yeah,
okay, cool. So then that year you blow up. You realize the opportunity and you hit a golden door. Um, you
yeah.
sell 497 accounts. So talk
494.
494. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah. So is it just a matter of like you realize the opportunity and you just go all in, or talk to me about how that year went
Yeah.
for you?
Well, that's what it was. Like after that second day, I remember I got four and I was like, this is serious. Like, and then we got serious with it basically. So like we did a road trip almost every week that summer. And it was just me. I got my homie Mark on it, like Mark Gender. So shout out to Mark, shout out to Gurpreet. And like that summer, like we still talk about it all the time. We're just like, man, that summer was just crazy. Like me and Mark and Gurpreet just literally road tripped every week. Like I wasn't even home. I was like, we have to take advantage of this. This is nuts. That's when it was only 20, as low as $25 a month,
Oh
with
wow.
that Telus ADT, right?
Yeah, I worked with Telus that following year, And I think like a good thing for the listeners to understand, like you've been through multiple different companies. We're going to continue on with the story, but it's like a roller coaster for you, right? Is like when you have these opportunities, you know, when you have an opportunity where you're making great money in door to door, like take advantage of those times. Don't think it's going to last you forever, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Like when you think that the going's good, don't think, oh, it's going to be like this for 20 years. Like put your head down, take advantage of the opportunity. Don't take it for granted because things can change very quickly in this industry. And I think that's something you've done very well is you take advantage of your opportunities. And when you do have something, right, you go full throttle. But cool.
Thanks
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So you crush it. And then what happens? Because then obviously things change. I think Kaiman then dropped out, right? Kaiman stopped their dealership, right? So you were left obviously without a company. So what was your move then? What was the play? What was the decision making? Like how was that, right? You go from a golden door on top of the world to like now you don't have a company. Just talk about that process.
Man, I actually forgot about that. That was just we just went over and worked with Brinks for a bit.
Okay.
So I remember we did that. But actually what happened was we worked for Brinks for a couple of months. I actually really hurt my foot wakeboarding like at the start of June.
Okay.
Which ended up being like a whole thing. I had to get surgery the next year and I was like literally out for like 2 years. It was wild.
Oh, wow.
So then I just wasn't even working after that.
Oh, so you hit golden door and then you took like 2 years off healing.
Yeah,
basically.
so I was blessed with a big year because I didn't really work for that next year very much. Yeah, that was actually when we got into solar was at near the end of 2021 actually.
Okay, so it makes sense. So how did you hear about the solar opportunity and what made you decide, hey, let me pioneer because at the time I assume it was like brand new in Canada, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. We were like the first in Alberta for sure to like go door to door.
Cool. So yeah, talk to me about that hiring process and you decided to go with solar.
Well, I always wanted to do solar even back when I was at Vivint because I heard, you know, you'd hear how people were just doing solar now in the States, right?
Right.
So yeah, then when I heard it was I just never knew that I could even go work in the States. Like I didn't know that you just get visas and all this stuff through Vivint, right, at the time. Mm-hmm. But so then I thought, oh, it's coming to Canada. And then so I thought I'd hop on it like right away, right? Yeah, so this was still 2021 at this point, but there was like this company, Sunwave, and we all, you know, were selling for them. But then eventually after like 6 months of just grinding and pumping out deals and the company just failed to like do any of their installations and kind of just left us hanging there to dry.
Brutal.
So that was the first experience with solar. So like we could see all the success, we could see all the deals and, you know.
So you're selling it and so tell me like how does Sunwave, like what's their part in the whole process? Is it the company that you're working for is Sunwave?
At the time, yeah, it was these guys from Ontario, and they basically just came out and, you know, gave us the big sales pitch in the room, basically. I remember, and it was like, yeah, this is sick. Like, commission structure looks great. This is going to be huge. Like, the whole thing was there from the States, and they're already doing solar there. And, yeah, I don't even know, man. It was so long ago now, but basically just we pumped out all these sales. And then after a while, it was like, okay, well, when are they going to start doing the installs? You know, and kept asking, and then it just never happened. And then eventually, it was like, okay, well, this is like what's going on?
Crazy, man, crazy. So, how long did you sell with them for before you figured out, all right, this isn't working?
Probably like 5 or 6 months.
Wow. And how many guys were a part of that? Like, how big was the team?
Probably like 20, even at 25.
Wow.
Like we had a lot of setters in there. Like it was wild though. Like we had like me and my boy Kyle LeDuc. I remember we would go together a lot of the times because we try to learn from each other, but we were both getting like almost full schedules like every day, like 4, 5, 6 sits a day.
Yeah. So that's
crazy. Nuts.
Yeah, I didn't even know too much about that. So that was in 2021, right?
Yeah, so it was like September, October, November, and the craziest story ever, like not even kidding, like we went in there and we had no materials. This guy just hypes us up on how sick it is, gives us a little bit of the pitch, and we go out and knock doors, and the very first door I knocked, I set that appointment, and then they ended up closing the next morning. Not that it was like a install or anything, but I just
Yeah.
thought, wow, this is crazy. The first door I knocked, like, said yes. Like, what the heck?
Okay, got so that started like the wheels turning in your like even though it didn't work out, you knew that this could work, right? We just got to find the right company.
Then I just knew, like, in my head, I'm like, well, I know solar is like, I've seen people in the States, they're making millions of dollars a year, right?
Yep.
So then the decision was, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the States then.
Mm.
Because I found out that you could that Vivint would help you get the visas and,
Okay.
so I basically just got sold, like, go to the States, got recruited by, Vivint, and
Got it.
ended up bringing up 7 or 8 guys with me.
Okay.
So things were looking pretty good. This was though when I still had like the bummed foot. And
Yeah.
so now it's, 2021 into 2022 and we're like, okay, Sunwave, this thing is flopping. Like we need to
Yes.
pivot. But my foot was still all bummed up because it didn't heal right. So, but I was just committed. I was like, I'm going to sell solar in the States. It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Like,
So how
right.
did you do in the States?
I mean, long story short, it also kind of sucked for us. I feel like it could have been really good, but we just kind of didn't know what we were doing. And we got recruited on saying that we're going to do solar. But then kind of when we got there, we were told, oh, well, you have to sell alarms and solar. Like you can't just sell solar.
Mm.
And so everybody was kind of like, what the heck's going on? We thought we were coming down to sell solar. Then they're trying to tell us we need to sell alarms and just like sell a little bit of solar on the side.
Right. Okay. So I didn't have the greatest experience selling solar with Vivint, just based
We
on
went to
expectations.
Dallas and the market was just torched and we're just like out there,
Yeah. So
trying to just figure it out on our own. So yeah, long story short, then it was like now we've been doing solar for like, a year or more now. And it was like, still like, this isn't working yet. Like, what the hell's going on?
yeah.
Thinking
Right.
like, man, why did I leave that 737 pilot job? And then,
Totally.
kind of just like in a bad state.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy.
Yeah.
But then when I came back, like I still knew that the solar was going to work. And then when we came back, everybody that was kind of doing the Sunwave, they were like, oh, we switched to this other company now and it's working out. And
Mm.
so I was like, okay, okay. So we came back and then I think it was just like all that stuff, just that, I went through with the Sunwave. It was just like all like kind of like training and
Yeah.
preparation. And then when we hit that 2023 year, I was really like, okay, like let's go now. Like this is
Yeah.
like last chance kind of thing.
Like you
Like
had
if this doesn't work out anymore, like this is it.
yeah. Yeah. You
So
went through like a ton of crap, right? To kind of get to
yeah.
finally where you're in an operation where everything's dialed and makes sense, right? So
But yeah, it worked, and then yeah,
yeah.
happy that went through it all.
Yeah, man. No, that's awesome. What a story. So now let's break down the Golden Door year. Okay, so first
Yeah.
one to ever do it in Canada. So talk to me a little bit about like you have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder based on like past experiences. Like this is my opportunity. Let's get it done. When did you decide that you wanted to go for a Golden Door? Was it before the season or during the season?
Well, I didn't even know what a golden door was until like maybe halfway through the season,
Wow. Okay.
and I
Got
was
it.
like, oh, okay, that's sick.
Okay.
We can.
Sweet.
I was thinking I could do that.
Got it. When did you
Yeah.
start and when did you finish that season?
Oh, it was like I was working from. I remember that December. I even had a huge month because my boy Ajmal was just pumping out these online leads. And I guess at the time, like, because now the online leads, it's just so saturated. But
Right.
like when he was pumping the online leads, like we were closing like almost every single one. I remember it was nuts
Wow.
in
Got it.
December. So we were going hot. And then, yeah, so I was already like rolling into the year. Like,
Nice. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So you started
And
so
then
it's just like
January was big, February was big.
nice.
And it was
Okay.
just,
And when did you hit it? When did you end the Golden Door journey? Do you
I
remember?
don't even know exactly when I hit it, but even like at the end of the year, I was still working till probably mid December.
Got it.
I
Okay,
remember we were
cool.
doing road trips around Red Deer for like November and December.
Okay, cool. And what were your kind of stats? So how many sales, how many self-gen? First, let's just get things straight. What's the metrics that you need to hit for a Golden Door and solar? What is it again?
So it's, what is it, 200 points,
Yep.
right? So a set is a point and a close is a point. So if you self-gen, that's 2 points.
Okay, got it. And how many of your deals
So,
were what was your kind of how did you hit 200 points that year? Do you remember?
well, yeah, I think maybe about 50-50, like percent. Maybe actually more set, maybe like 40% self-gen, 60% set.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure though.
Okay. Okay, cool. And just what was like the day-to-day routine of you just waking up and getting to work? Like what did that look like? When were you hitting the doors or when were you heading to the first appointment? How did you
Mhm.
structure your day in a golden door year?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just being as like the most efficient as you can. Like you don't want to be wasting any time. So yeah, just like also for 2023, I didn't drink at all. I just like quit drinking that year as well. So I think that really helped.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so just getting up early, going to the gym, and not even every day going to the gym. Like some days you got appointments at 9 a.m., you know?
Yeah.
Like I was just fully open except for Sundays I take off because I feel like you need at least one day off. And
Yep.
it's just, balance and everything. But yeah, like full on schedule wide open from 9 till 9, 6 days a week. And just if you're not at an appointment, like you need to be on the doors setting.
Got it.
Especially if you're on a road trip, like you need to be maximizing your time, you know, like be on the doors at 9 a.m. Like I don't like a lot of people always say, oh, you need to knock at 2 and then, no one's home in the morning.
Right.
But it's like, I don't know, man. Like you're not going to get any deals sitting in the hotel room. So, and there are
Right.
people home in the morning and sometimes they are the easiest sales because no one's ever talked to them because everybody knocks from 2 to 9.
Yeah.
There are some people that they're gone from that time in the day, right?
I'm a big fan of morning knocking as well. I think
Oh, I
it's
love it. Yeah.
yeah. It's just a lot of it is just like for your own momentum. Like getting that early deal or, getting that early momentum is just massive, sets you up for a great day.
Exactly. Yeah. Get it
Feel
done early.
Yep, yep. I always feel a little bit stressed if I'm out there in the afternoon at zero, you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And you don't want that to be like how you're feeling out there.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
soon as you get that first one, then everything changes. You're just chill and good to go.
Right. How did you
But yeah,
structure
just
your day? Like what? Sorry, what was like the schedule? Like your appointments versus knocking doors? Was it scattered like your appointments, or do you try to stack it all, or like how did you?
always stack it.
Yeah,
Like if you're not stacking it, you're just like, why would you go out? I mean, sometimes there's nothing you can do, and the customer, that's the only time. But
yeah,
like, yeah, I always when if it's me self-genning all my deals, it's like if I'm out there today, I'll be like, hey, I'll book you in for tomorrow at 11, and then I'll just book the 1-3. Like I just always do that.
right.
Just
Yep.
stack them up.
And then you'll just knock doors in between or
Yeah.
before and after.
I
Okay.
actually always will like to knock a few doors before I go to any close just to kind of warm up a bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if you don't get a yes, like just get a couple doors in before you go to your sits.
Right. Yep.
I like to do
Absolutely.
that.
Okay. Okay. Very cool.
Or
And
sometimes too, really quick, is like
yeah.
after your sit's done, and if you don't have anything, you should be knocking those houses right around and be like, "Yo, we just set up like Mark next door, like blah 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 blah." Right?
Right.
It's like the
Yep.
best way to get a sale, like all those houses right around that door.
Okay, got it. And how did you work with your setters for this Golden Door year? Like, what kind of conversations were you having with your setters, with your company, with the installers, just to, make it a team effort for you to achieve this?
Well, I'd always kind of have just one setter with me, like in my car. I feel like that's the best way to go. Like, you got to one closer and one setter should just work together all the time. Because it
Cool.
also lets the setter, if you have a bunch of setters setting for one person, then the setters aren't going to make as much because then they can't book as many in for you, right?
Got it.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of the conversations of just like trying to help them make more money too, right? Like getting them motivated, showing them like you got to get out there grinding, like, you know, treat it like a regular job, like show up on time, work the hours,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay,
trying
got
to
it,
keep
man.
it fun for them too, little competitions here and there
So you only
within the
had
company.
one setter for your journey of that year.
Usually I would just have one with me working, yeah.
Okay.
Like if we're on a road trip, it'll be like one setter and one closer kind of thing. Like these two work together, these two work together.
Okay.
Because I
Understood.
feel like if you're out there knocking and you have a setter, like that's enough to fill your schedule easy.
Right. Right. Got it. And what kind of conversation, like, how do you make sure your setter is like setting good quality appointments? What are some things that you ask of him to do or her?
Um, yeah, good question. I don't know. Just always make sure the both spouses are there if you can. Always telling them like book it for the earliest time. Don't just book a random one in a week from now.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Like, were you finding that you were, like, I guess it just depends on the quality of setter. I assume you were making sure you were rolling with the best setter possible, right? Um,
Trying
but
to, yeah.
yeah, like, were you like you rolling up to some appointments that are just junk and you kind of having to re-strategize, or is that
Yeah, it
just the
always
game?
happens.
Yeah.
Part of the game.
Yep. For
I'm
sure.
not gonna like harp on my set and be like, man, like that set was trash. It's
Yeah,
like,
of course.
some are like that, some aren't.
Yeah.
Even the ones that I set sometimes, I'm like, oh, that one's gonna be a lay down. And then I go back the next day and then it's just the most trash set. I'm
Yeah.
like, what happened? It's like, what? But that's the
Yeah.
thing with solar. It's so crazy. It's a lot different.
Yeah.
A lot of like
Totally.
follow up game and just,
Yep.
that sale is not done when you close it right there. Like you gotta like deal with a lot of stuff like down the road and keep them
Yep.
going in it.
Yeah. So what
So
advice do you have? Like there's a lot of like solar is kind of the talk of the town right now. There's more and more companies that are starting to emerge. There's
mhm.
a lot of guys that, want to hit a golden door like you did in solar. Just what advice would you give them? A young up and comer trying to hit a golden door for 2025.
Yeah, I would just say get ready to sacrifice your time. Like you need to be 100% into this. Like if you're gonna be top level, like in your field. So I know I said at the start, like I think of sales like a sport. Like think about these guys playing NFL or NHL or whatever. Like they get up at probably like 5 a.m. and do workouts all morning, and then they do more practice, and all they do is that one thing, right? And then at nighttime, they're like watching films and studying, right? Like this is what we need to do for door to door. Like if you think that you're going to win a golden door, like that's kind of what it is. Like you don't have time for anything else. This is like your like 100% all in, or else it's not going to work. Like you need, like I would study every night. Like I still study a lot of the sales stuff. Like
Yep. Yeah.
you're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no neutral.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
would just second that. It's just you kind of gotta cancel everything else out. Like
yeah.
I'm going through my calendar. I got that I don't know if you heard of it. Jesse Itzer's like big ass calendar, where it's like you kind of
No.
schedule like a little event you want to do like every 6 weeks or something like that. And I'm doing my schedule, and then it gets to like when work season starts for me, and
Oh yeah.
it's like, dude, I can't. There's no room. Like if my goals, if I want to hit a golden door, if I want to be an elite sales rep, like I can't be
Hmm.
scheduling little vacations here and there. It's just you got to dial it
Yeah.
in, right? Because that's what it takes is just yeah, full sacrifice, full effort,
Yeah.
and everything else is just a distraction from it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You got to think about like what you're spending your time on, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And a lot of
absolutely.
people like will waste a ton of time and you don't even realize it.
Yep.
Just doing like random stupid crap. Like even if you're out drinking and partying, like it takes up a ton of your time too. And then the
Yeah.
next day your time's wasted because you're all hungover or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So
I find too, like the later in the season, the more like you just like your mind has to just be fully dialed in on sales, just because you're so far along the road that like if you start to just even like think about other things, like even like at the end of my Golden Door season last year, in September and October, recruiting started to kind of be like something that our team would start talking about.
mhm.
And I found like if I started to think about that, it would just take away from my sales, and it would lead to bad days, and I just had to completely shut it all
Yeah.
out, and then I was able to find success. So it's funny how the brain works, but it's super important. You just got to kind of stay single-minded, single-tracked until the goal's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just get the goal done and then you can do what you want, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting what you said about going dry. I mean, I did that as well. I think that's paramount, like for doing a golden door, because it's the same thing. It's just like the ultimate distraction is waking up on a Sunday hungover. It just totally tears you away from that goal, right? And devil plays tricks on you in your mind. You'll start to talk yourself out of, going for that big goal. How important was it for you going dry for this golden door journey?
Well, I think it definitely helped a lot. I didn't do it like just for that, but definitely keeps you focused and dialed in.
Yep, for sure. Okay, cool. Let's get a little bit tactical. I want to hear your introduction, your sales intro, your first 45 seconds, just what you normally say. Let's hear it. Hello?
Hey, sorry to bug ya. We're just working with a few of your neighbors on the street. Have you heard what we were doing?
No.
No? We're just coming by because there are new incentives available in your area for the solar. It's just because the power prices have gone up so crazy, and they already raised them for 2025. They're supposed to raise them again in the next few months. But so instead of paying these high power bills, like some of your neighbors like Mark are actually just switching to solar and paying a fixed amount. Do you roughly know what you're spending a month on your electric bill? So like that's like my question. I say a bunch of stuff and then I get to that one question.
Yep.
And then usually if I can get to that question and kind of be like, okay, like, how much are you spending now? And then they start to get in that mindset. And then I just start breaking it down. Like, okay, so how long have you lived here? Oh, wow. Like if you add that up, that's a lot of money that you've just given to the power companies. Like, do you think they're ever going to give that back to you one day? And then I'm like, yeah, the reason why people are doing this. After that, I kind of just go freestyle, I guess. But the whole goal is to just get their bill. Like, how much you spend on your power bill? Oh, do you get that online? Actually, why don't you just grab that super quick?
Right. I love that. No, that's very cool, man. It's one thing that like I think top sellers do is they're just very direct, just ask very direct questions, right? Like, what do you spend on your power bill? Just straight up, right? Or for pest control, it's do you have a company or not yet? Just cut right to the chase, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that gauges interest for you well. Like, I'm sure if someone tells you right away what their power bill is, you kind of know, like, okay, this is someone I want to spend my time with, right?
Yeah, true. You can gauge too, like, a lot of times I'll kind of just look for the body language signs. Like if they're not even going to open the door, then I'll try to maybe talk to them for a little while, but I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Versus someone that like opens the door and they're like, oh, and you like hand them the slick and they take it and they're all like stoked.
The slicks, the taking of the slicks is like a very subtle tell.
Yeah. You want to go shoulder to shoulder and they come shoulder to shoulder. And then you're like, okay, sweet. Like you might like go grab your bill super quick. Like I'll just come inside super quick.
Yep.
And you know that those are the ones that you want to like spend your energy on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, no, I love that. What would be some of the things that you think you do really well compared to a lot of others in the industry?
Yeah, I think it was when I was doing the alarms too, I did this really well, but I think I can just kind of like what we were talking about, like I'll try not to spend a bunch of time on a non-buyer. Like just try to find the buyers and then you're like, okay, now I'm going to, because it is a lot of energy, like doing sales. It's not like physical, like doing, a labor job, but it's really exhausting mentally sometimes. Like you come home and you're just exhausted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to like pick and choose like which people, which houses or whatever you're going to like try to use your, like get into the zone on.
Yeah.
So I think my thing that I do best is I'm just like, only looking for the qualified buyers. Like I'll be like, okay, this guy is not even like, see you later. Cause some people will just talk to you for like 10 minutes and then they'll just say no.
Right.
So like you want to be able to identify like the buyers from the non-buyers.
Totally.
So you just go around and look for people like, and then there'll be the one house and they're all happy. They open the door and they're jolly and they're talking. You're like, okay, this one now I can really try to focus on.
Totally.
Try to get the sale.
Couldn't agree more, man. I think that's like, it's funny because it doesn't take like sales skills, but it's such a massive thing to pick up on is like spending time with the right people, right?
Yeah.
I was out on a blitz last weekend. I hadn't knocked in a while. So it's kind of fun just to kind of reflect on like the job, just being out of it for a while. And I just noticed like first 15 people is just like quick no's. And, it's not like, I think a mistake that salespeople make is they think it's like really good as a salesperson to like overcome multiple objections at the beginning and get your way into a presentation and kind of like take a
Yeah.
customer who's not interested and kind of get them like kind of interested, but in the
Hmm.
end they tell you no. So you might think that's
Yeah.
great, right? And what you don't realize is you just wasted like 15 minutes of your time, a ton of your energy. And the
Yeah.
elite sales reps like yourself are just understanding, hey, the odds are probably like not that great with this customer, so I'm just going to go find one that is interested, and you're going to
Hmm.
sell way more, right, than just wasting your time constantly, right?
Yeah, it is true. Yeah.
Like those customers that people do spend time with, what they don't understand is like if you do, like 1 out of 10 of those customers might buy, and you might feel really good about yourself of like, oh, I'm a great salesperson because I was able to sway them into making a decision when they weren't interested at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's 1 out of 10, right? Whereas, hey, you just quickly move on from those guys and find your buyers, you'll sell way more, right?
Yeah.
So
Especially in solar too. Like then you just wasted like 3 hours, doing the
yeah,
set and trying to do the close, and then it's just
right, right.
we've all been there probably. So it's just
So
good to be able to learn from that and be like, okay, maybe next time I should. It's all about the body language. Like I think
mm,
if just look for those body language. Like if they're just talking to you through the screen, it's probably not.
right,
Or
yeah,
if they talk, have you ever had someone come to the window? They don't even come to the door.
right, yeah,
I'll just be like, oh, just got to show you this at the door. Just come to the door. And if they don't come to the door, I'll just walk away.
sure, yeah,
Like,
no, and
or they're
that's
trying to talk to you on the doorbell camera sometimes.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So the subtle tells for you are like, yeah, picking up on body language, like grabbing the slick is a big one, and just kind of
Yeah, I
like,
remember from Vivint, that was like the one thing I remember. I love that from Vivint. They taught us that.
the grabbing of the slick, whether they take it or not.
Yeah, well, Vivint taught us a bunch of good stuff like back in Canada during those years. But
Yep,
yeah, I remember that was one of the big things that I remember from Vivint is like, that's why, like when we did energy, we always had our own binder.
yep,
And so I remember when I started Vivint, I was like, why do you guys use these stupid slicks? Like they're all unorganized. Like it's nice to have in a binder. And then I realized, oh, it's because that's why you can like hand it to them.
right,
Right.
right, yeah,
So
for
I love
sure.
that.
And then I think just like what you do, and it's same kind of with pest control, is just asking that direct question at the start and just seeing how they answer it. Like I think a lot of sales reps will just start to ramble, and they'll ramble their way through their intro, and then they'll ask a question like, so how long have you lived here? But just asking a question like, hey, how much is your power bill? And seeing how they answer it, right? And same thing with like, hey,
Hmm.
do you guys have a company or not yet? Or just, trying to bait them to ask how much. It just really gives you a lot of direction. And I'm sure but like with pest control, if someone asks me right at the intro how much, like the
Yeah.
chances of me closing them skyrocket, right? It's probably the same when you ask, how much is your power bill, and someone just straight up tells you, oh, it's $250, and you're like, okay, I'm in one here, right? Like
Yeah.
most people are going to say, yeah, I'm not interested, or hey, I don't need this, or whatever, and you kind of know, okay, this is someone that I need to try to build interest to. If they're not interested, though, next door, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the buying questions, right?
Yep, yep, for sure. Okay, cool.
Look
Talk
for
to me.
those.
Yep, absolutely. So talk to me about closing. So, you're at like, what's your mindset on closing? You're at the kitchen table with them. You're going through your presentation. What's your mindset? How do you overcome, that? Like, how do you build urgency in it? And then how do
Okay.
you, get them to make a decision there instead of just, hey, give me your card, I'll think about it.
Yeah. The one thing in closing that I think is super important is like building that rapport too, because I feel like lately I haven't been doing that as much. And I just went on a roadie last week, so I was thinking maybe I need to do more of that. But yeah, definitely do that. They gotta like love you,
Right,
because people buy off people that they like, right?
right,
So yeah, definitely that's huge. Just try to bro down with them like anything that you can. But really, the whole idea for me is I want to break it down so they truly understand that this is really just option one versus option two, and that is it. There is nothing else. Because a lot of times in solar, they think, oh, I'm gonna like they don't view it as that. They just view it as like, oh, I'm gonna buy solar for $200 a month. But
right,
they always forget that they're already spending the money, and it's so you really have to just break it down, option one versus option two,
right.
and then it's always like which one makes more sense. Like, do you want to keep doing this, or would you just lock it in? Like,
So do you like write it all out on a paper
yeah,
or
I do my
with a
own
slick?
paper, just every time blank paper.
Yeah,
I made a few on the computer, like already made out, but
yeah,
I don't know. I just like doing a full blank paper from scratch and just writing it with him every time.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, I used to do like that in Vivint. I don't know if you did this,
Yeah.
but you write down everything that they're getting and what the cost is,
Oh,
and then you
yeah.
do the whole cross out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was awesome. I always loved getting a reaction with that. We cross it all out. Oh, it's like nice, nice.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got
I
one
love
here.
that.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
little bit different with solar. I don't know,
Of
but
course. Yeah. Of
can't
course.
really cross it. But.
Okay, but cool. But so how do you build that urgency? I'm just curious. Like obviously in pest
Mhm.
control, it's hey, you got two spots, they go quick. If you can work in discount. How do you do it with solar?
Well, I'm sure everyone's doing it this way, but it's just with that Greener Homes loan or the
Mm-hmm.
Greener Homes grant when it was still around. But like, because the Greener Homes grant actually ended, right?
Mm,
So obviously the urgency was just like, we'll get you enrolled today, lock in your, thing with the government. That way you don't, like, you won't miss out. Like, if you wait, you might miss this program. Like, that's the whole urgency. Like, you don't want to miss the Greener Homes program. Let's get it done before it ends.
got it.
You
Okay,
know,
got it. And has that ended now, or is that still what you use normally?
the Greener Homes grant has ended. Yeah,
Okay. So
the
now
loan's still going, I guess.
okay, got it. So like for new customers though, what are you using? What are you saying now, if anything?
I mean, I don't even know much about the urgency. It's just kind of letting them know about that program. Like it's first come, first serve. So once the money gets used up, it's gone.
Mm, okay, got it.
But really, the thing that maybe a bit of urgency too is just letting them know. Like sometimes I'll say stuff like, every month that you wait to go solar is just another month that you spent to the utility that could have been going towards this.
Right. Yeah. So just like
You know.
the urgency of like, hey, the bill's going to keep going up and the prices are going to keep going up.
Oh yeah, the prices are going to go up. You show them, draw it on the graph, inflation, da 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 da.
Yeah. I'm just curious because obviously you're selling like 25-year loans. Like it's a lot more of a high ticket sale than pest control. 1 year, super quick, right? Sure, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do you say at the dinner table? I'm sure you got a lot of it, right? Like, okay, well, like I need to think about all this, right? Are you? Is it the type of business where you let them think about it, or is it the type of like, are you trying to, say, hey, like, is it kind of more like, hey, let's just get you in the pipeline, and then you kind of sell them through that process? Like, how
I
do you deal with
mean,
that?
it's hard. Like you're playing with fire at that point. You really want to have them sold like 100% if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let me see. It's just really just I know that if they tell me that they said they want to think about it, then I screwed up.
Mm,
Like I need to be doing my close in such a way where it's like I'm gonna tell them first, like obviously there's a lot of information, you guys need to go over this, but we're only at step one here, kind of thing, right?
right.
And we got to go through all these steps first, and so it's gonna, we're not getting married on the first date, you guys, like make a joke,
Right.
don't worry,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, then I'll always, whenever they say they want to think about it, I always have the same thing. It's just I always circle back. I'm like, absolutely, like agree with them. Like I agree totally. Like of course you want to think about it, da 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 da, like as much as you can, and then just go back to like, but do you like the idea of this? Does the idea make sense? And they're always like,
Mm,
oh yeah, of course it makes sense. And I'll be like, okay, so which part of the idea makes the most sense? And you just want to
mm,
circle them back to like, now they're talking about why they like it again,
yeah. Get
and
them
you
to
just keep
sell
talking about
themselves.
that.
Yeah.
Always the thing I learned from Vivint too. Oh, why do you say that? What do
Right.
you like about it? Why do you say that?
Right.
And they just talk for like sometimes even 5 to 10 minutes, even between themselves about this and then that.
And so it's
And
just
then
let
if
them
you can
talk.
get, yeah, let them talk and then you just go back into it. Okay, great. Well, then let's just get this application done tonight. Obviously, you guys like it. Like, does that sound fair? Kind of thing.
Nice. Okay.
Kind of
Okay.
like something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it.
But always get them to talk because if I think you said something a bit earlier, but like if you just ramble on, it's just not going to work. Like then you just look like the pushy sales guy.
Yeah.
Like what you really want to do is you want the words to come out of their mouth.
Totally.
Like that's always what I think about if the words come out of their mouth, now it's like my green light to go for the close.
Right. Yeah. 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 You got to involve them as much in the sales process as you can, right? The keywords
Yeah.
involve, right? I think that's the biggest separator. Like, it's not what you're saying, right? It's like how much you can involve them in what you're saying, right? So you
Yeah.
do that through questions, you do that through tie down questions, right? But no, that's super key. So I'm curious. So you hit Golden Door in 2023. 2024,
Yeah.
you didn't hit Golden Door. You said something interesting. You just, it's obviously it's hard to do every year. I know you traveled, but just talk to me about kind of like that process for you of hitting the Golden Door and then not hitting it the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went on a couple of vacations in the summer and did a spring vacation. Definitely was still out there grinding a lot though. It felt like the whole kind of everyone did a bit less sales that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
So I don't
like,
know what it was, but
so you obviously have a good idea though. You can kind of tell like the difference between the two. Like, hey, I did a Golden Door this year, and then I didn't do it the next year. Like, what was that? It was it just like time on doors? Like you just weren't putting in the same amount of
I
time.
definitely wasn't putting in the same amount of time. Yeah,
Got
like
it.
on the Golden Door year, we forgot to kind of mention, but I didn't even have my license until like so January, February, March, and April and May. I didn't even have a driver's license, so I
Oh
literally was
wow.
just out on my bike.
No way.
So I had this old school like Kona mountain bike with the front shocks and the hardtail,
No
kind of
way.
cross country style, just trekking in the winter, like biking to the appointments.
Bro, you hit a solar Golden Door on a bike.
Yeah, and then I upgraded to an e-bike in February. I just was like, screw this. Like I was like, making good money, and they're like $5,500. But I remember my homie Justin. He has like super long dreadlocks. He's like super hippie dude. He was setting for me for a bit,
Yeah.
and we would just mob around in his like big SUV. It was sick. And then we just went to the bike shop one day because we were like, let's just go look at them. Let's just like try them out. And at that time, I was like, kind of like, I don't know, e-bikes are okay. I never really like understood that they were like actually pedal assist. I just thought it was like a button.
Yep.
And then I was like, we just went and tried it out, and then immediately I was like, oh yeah, I'm buying this right away, like 100%.
That's unreal,
And we
man.
just bought it and drove it home in his SUV.
That's a wicked,
And then I
man.
had an e-bike instead of a pedal bike. So,
Sweet, sweet.
and then
So
once it was like May or so, I got my license back, and then we just hit roadies like to Red Deer and kind of
nice.
turf around there.
Did you have customers like be like, you pull up on a bike?
Sometimes, yeah, like I would always try to kind of be a little bit discreet with it.
Yeah, park it down the
But then,
street.
yeah, because I just bought it and I was like all worried about it getting stolen. So I would just like sometimes even just be like, yeah, I just rode my e-bike here. Like, yeah, you know.
Just
Or if it was
humanize
a
it
nice
a
place
little
to
bit.
stash it, I'd like put on the side of the house and just not even say anything sometimes, just show up at their door.
That's
And
hilarious.
sometimes I'd even plug it in at their house.
That's
Like
awesome, man.
legit, yeah. I'd
Because
plug it in
I've
sometimes.
heard some door-to-door guys say they like to pull up to appointments in like their Lambo or their, Ferrari,
Yeah.
but you're just pulling up in the e-bike.
I know I feel
That's
weird if I
legit.
pulled up in a fancy car sometimes.
Yeah,
Because then
yeah,
I don't know why.
yeah. No, yeah. Definitely humanizes you a little bit more for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So, obviously, you've been in the game for a while, right? Going into this next year, what's your overall thoughts on the solar space? Now you run a region with, a team full of hungry guys all looking to replicate your Golden Door. What's just your overall thoughts and your message to the space out there of solar in Canada?
Yeah, I just keep grinding, I guess. It's tough out there. Then you get some cancels and you just feel like you're hitting the lowest low, but just got to just keep keep going because
Yeah,
it's hard with solar. You might get like 10 sets and then maybe you only sit with like seven of them, and then maybe you close like two or three, and then you got to cancel on top of that, and then you just feel like you're always spinning your tires and not really getting anywhere. But you definitely just keep focusing on the effort, because that's what it was like for me. I was just doing all the stuff and I felt like I was just spinning my tires and just not getting anywhere. But then eventually it just took off, right? So there's so much potential in solar. Like you might just have a rough month and then you just go and get like four sales in like 2 days.
hmm
And then it's just so yeah, it's gonna be huge ups and downs, but if you just keep grinding and just keep focused on your craft, like right, like just like a pro athlete, like just keep in the weight room, keep training, keep going.
yeah. Just keep
And like it
stacking
works,
days.
man. Like it works. Like there's so many people that have made so much money from solar. Like,
Absolutely. It's
but it's
just getting
not
started.
easy either. Like it's not going to be easy.
hmm
So just be
Yeah,
ready.
I love it, man. Just keep stacking days, and the wins will come.
Yep.
All right, Mike. Well, it's great talking with you. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I'll let you get
Thanks,
back
bro.
to your family. But yes, lots of great insights, and definitely what you did, inspiring. And I think it's only going
Thanks,
to
bro.
get better year after year for sure, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks, dude.
All
Take
right,
care.
take care, man.